Yu-Gi-Oh has a lot of archetypes and with it a lot of boss monsters. Most of these boss monsters and archetypes have been shown off in the anime, but most of the time the TCG version is a lot weaker than the anime counterpart. So let's dive into some of the anime boss monsters that got nerfed when pulled over into the TCG. Starting our list off is none other than the iconic Winged Dragon of Ra at number 10. Despite being a god card, the Winged Dragon of Ra is only level 10, but makes up for it by being part of the most exclusive attribute and type of all of Yu-Gi-Oh, the Divine and Divine Beast archetypes. The current effect of Winged Dragon of Ra is that it requires 3 tributes to normal summon. The normal summon can't be negated, so there's protection against cards like Solemn Judgment. When Ra is normal summoned, you can pay life points until you have 100 left, and Ra gains attack and defense equal to the amount of life points paid. And for good measure, you can pay 1,000 life points to target and destroy a monster your opponent controls. So quite the life point reliant card that can put the work in the right scenario. But like all god cards of the TCG, they are pretty frail with no protection whatsoever. The anime effect of Ra is similar, but it has some added flavor to it. And viewers of the anime know how strong the anime version of Ra truly is. The anime version of Winged Dragon of Ra has 3 effects which aren't really written on the card text, but in hieroglyphic text in the anime. The first effect is that Ra shall acquire the power of 3 tributes. However, only those who offer the ancient incantation to heaven shall God follow. Then, God shall revive from earth, by offering the ritual of revival and his own life. One shall be united with God, and all enemies on the battlefield shall be incinerated. Last, in an instant, God shall become a phoenix, and all evil spirits chosen by it shall repose on earth. So in terms of translating those sacred verses into the game, let's break down each effect. First, Ra shall acquire the power of 3 tributes. However, only those who offer the ancient incantation to heaven shall God follow. This essentially is the same summon condition as the TCG version of Ra, but with some additions. On top of what's been shown in the anime, this line also references that Ra is to be unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So finally getting that protection the god card so desperately needed. The second effect, God shall revive from earth, by offering the ritual revival in his own life, one shall be united with God and all enemies in the battlefield shall be incinerated. This effect is similar to the real version of Ra, that you can pay any amount of life points in order to increase this card's attack by the amount of life points paid. The third effect, in an instant God shall become a phoenix, and all evil spirits chosen by it shall repose on earth. This last part is in relation to the Winged Dragon of Ra Immortal Phoenix, which is another version of the Winged Dragon of Ra. The effect of Immortal Phoenix reads that it can only be special summoned if the original Ra is sent from the field to the graveyard while this card is in your grave. Then you get to special summon this 4,000 attack and defense monster. Immortal Phoenix is not only unaffected by other card effects, but also can pay 1,000 life points to send one monster from the field to the graveyard, which isn't a once per turn effect. Then, during the end phase, you can send Immortal Phoenix to the grave to special summon a Winged Dragon of Ra Spirit mode from anywhere, ignoring its summon conditions. So, there realistically isn't that much of a change between their effects. Rather, Konami elected to separate Ra's effects into different cards, which is a pretty big downgrade. Heading into the GX era is Rainbow Dragon, but not really. Our number 9 spot is Malefic Rainbow Dragon. This level 10 Dark Dragon has 4,000 attack and no defense, and is only special summoned by removing from play a Rainbow Dragon from your hand or deck. And sadly, for such a cool card, Malefic Rainbow Dragon doesn't really do much other than sit there and be a 4K beatstick. Seriously, there's no effects other than restrictions, where there can only be one Malefic monster in the field at a time, and other monsters can't declare an attack, and if there's no field spell, it destroys this card. Unfortunately, that's what most of the Malefic cards do. They butchered this archetype despite how cool the archetype was in the anime. The anime version of Malefic Rainbow Dragon is significantly better, but still keeps some aspects the same. The same effect exists to bring Malefic Rainbow Dragon on the field, but now the dragon has 2 extra effects. Despite having the same restriction of needing a field spell, the anime Malefic Dragon effects are that during either player's turn, you can send all of the monsters you control to the graveyard, and for each Malefic monster sent, Malefic Rainbow Dragon gains 1,000 attack points. Additionally, to further the combo, you can remove from play all Malefic monsters to shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. Thankfully, we have the much worse version of Malefic Rainbow Dragon, as the anime version is quite the OTK tool. And at number 8, we have Thor, Lord of the Aesir, the ace monster dragon of Team Ragnarok on Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Racing Grand Prix arc. This level 10 Earth Beast Warrior has 3,500 attack and 2,000 defense, and requires 1 Nordic Beast and 2 non-tuners to synchro summon. This representation of the Norse god is one of the 3 boss monsters of the Nordic archetype. And Thor is supposed to be the frontline battle-worn warrior. Thor's effect is that once per turn, Thor can negate all of your opponent's monster effects until the end phase, which by itself is pretty strong. On top of that, if Thor is destroyed by your opponent's card effects, during the end phase you can banish a Nordic monster to special summon itself and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. So a once per turn negate of all your opponent's monsters effects, and a self-reborn is pretty strong. The Aesir's God anime effect is a bit different, but nonetheless stronger. The most notable change outside of the effect is that Thor and the other two Aesir god synchros are Divine Beast monsters, so they're like the other 3 Egyptian god cards. Other than that, there's also been a change to Thor's materials for a synchro summon. Rather than requiring a specific Northern tuner, the anime version of Thor only requires generic materials. Now, in terms of effect changes, rather than negating all of your opponent's monsters, Thor specifically targets one monster and steals it, and any effect stealing monster is a strong one. Additionally, similar to the TCG version of Thor's Reborn effect, rather than banishing a Nordic monster reborn itself, the anime version of Thor doesn't require a cost. Continuing the 5D train is Meklord Astro Mekanikle, the boss monster of Aporia at number 7. This level 12 machine light monster has an impressive 4,000 attack and defense points, and has to be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 Meklord cards from your hand to the graveyard. And in true Meklord fashion, Astro Mekanikle is an anti-synchro monster. Once per turn, Astro Mekanikle can pull a Relinquish, in that it can equip a synchro monster to itself. By doing this, Astro Mekanikle can gain attack points equal to that monster's attack, and then during the standby phase, you can send the equipped monster to the graveyard to inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the equipped monster. However, the only downside is that you cannot conduct your battle phase when you activate this effect. The difference between the anime and the TCG version of Meklord Astro Mekanikle aren't too different. The synchro stealing effect is the exact same, but there's one big missing piece. See, the Meklords in the anime are all about building and upgrading the Meklords with different attachments. There are 4 different types of cards that each Meklord uses. There's Attack, Guard, Carrier, and Top. Each Meklord all have their own versions of Guard, Carrier, Top, and Attack. But luckily for Mekanikle, with its effect, you can use one of their effects by sending it from your hand to the graveyard. Although they are anime exclusive cards, here's a brief overview of what they do. Attack typically has battle focus effects like piercing damage. Carrier typically has destruction prevention. Guard are defensive like attack negation, and Top is somewhat battle focused, but more negations of effects. And for icing on top, if Mekanikle is about to be destroyed, you can banish either an attack, guard, carrier, or top from your grave to prevent its destruction. And at number 6 is an entry that OG Yu-Gi-Oh fans will recognize, and that's Dark Sage, the level 9 Dark Spellcaster with 2800 attack and 3200 defense. It's notoriously known as one of the worst monsters that Yu-Gi-Oh has used. See, Dark Sage has the effect that when it's summoned, you can add any spell card from your deck to your hand. However, despite its phenomenal effect, Dark Sage can only be summoned immediately after you succeed in the effect of Time Wizard, and you have to attribute your own Dark Magician to do so. So essentially, you are relying on winning a 50-50 and having a Dark Magician at the same time as a Time Wizard on the field. As Time Wizard's effect is that once per turn, you can flip a coin. If you call it correctly, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls, but if you call it wrong, you destroy all your monsters and take damage equal to half the total attack points of all the destroyed monsters. On the other side, there's the anime counterpart of Dark Sage, which surprisingly doesn't have the summoning requirement in its text. But on the other hand, its only appearance is due to the effect of Time Wizard aging Dark Magician up several thousand years. So it's a bit of a gray area. As per its anime effect, Dark Sage on top of the effect to search for a spell card from your deck allows you to activate a spell card during your opponent's turn from your hand. And at number 5 is another entry from the GX era, Armityle the Chaos Phantasm, the fusion of all 3 Sacred Beasts. This monstrosity from the GX era requires all 3 Sacred Beasts to contact fuse to summon. This level 12 Fiend fusion has no attack or defense and can't be destroyed by battle. And what is the strong effect of Armityle? This hulking behemoth fusion of near gods? Well, during your turn, Armityle gains 10,000 attack points. And that's it. So, pretty underwhelming. In terms of its anime effect, there's quite a bit of a difference. First off, rather than Contact Fusion, Armityle requires a specific polymerization card called Dimension Fusion Destruction. On top of that, rather than gaining 10,000 attack points, Armityle can inflict 10,000 battle damage to a monster your opponent controls. So technically, it's just an instant kill effect of your opponent's monster. However, that's not Armityle's only effect. During your main phase, you can switch control of Armityle, and if you do, you can remove from play all other monsters the new controller owns. Interestingly enough, Konami recently revealed a new retrain of Armityle, which has an even improved version of this effect, as the retrain not only has the board clearing and control swapping effect, if the control of Armityle swaps, you can cheat out a copy of the original Armityle from your extra deck. And that's why Armityle is high on this list, as the effect has been saved by the retrain, despite splitting the normal effects into 2 cards. And at number 4, we have Divine Serpent Geh. This is a level 12 reptile monster with an unknown attack value and 0 defense. Few cards have a question mark attack value, but it essentially means its attack point value is based on another card or a specific trigger. Geh's effect is that it can only be special summoned by its own effect, that is, if a monster of yours is destroyed by an opponent's card, by battle or effect, you can pay half your life points to bring Geh out from your hand. Geh has 2 main effects. The first is that if this card attacks, during the damage step you can negate the target's monster's effect, and its attack becomes halved. The second part is once per battle. As a quick effect, Geh gains the original attack of the highest original attack point monster on the field. So essentially, Geh should never be able to be beaten over because it negates the effects of the monster it's battling, has its attack, and gains its original attack. In terms of anime effects, Geh can only be special summoned through the Wiraqocha Shuno's effect by having its attack points 0 and by paying 10,000 life points on top of discarding your entire hand. This is probably the hardest summon condition in the game, but again, remember it's an anime effect, so there was some plot convenience helping out Geh's wielder. But when Geh is summoned, your life points get set to 0, and the only way you can attack it is by sending the top 10 cards of your deck to the graveyard. And lastly, while you control Geh, you can't lose the duel. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a challenge trying to attack over Geh because it has an infinity attack and defense points. What preys on vulnerable snakes? Birds, of course. That brings us to our number 3 spot. At number 3 is Yugioh 5D's first main villain boss monster, the leader of the Earthbound Immortals, Earthbound Immortal Wiraqocha Rasca. A level 10 Dark Wing Beast, Wiraqocha Rasca is quite the menacing boss monster with its terrifying 100 attack and defense points. All jokes aside, the true terror of this bird is of course its effect. Well, mainly its anime effect, as the TCG effect isn't that scary. The TCG effect of Wiraqocha is that on normal summon you get to target 1 to 3 cards you control, but not more than your opponent has in their hand. Shuffle them to the deck, then discard the same number of random cards from your opponent's hand. And if you do, Wiraqocha Rasca gains 1000 attack for each card discarded by this effect. And this is on top of the archetypal effect of Earthbound Immortals, which is where they can be the only one on the field at the time, and you need a field spell to be in play, and it can attack directly. Now, despite the hand ripping effect, and typically how strong it's been in past card effects, the issue with Wiraqocha Rasca is it needs a lot of resources to get on the field. Not only do you need 2 tributes to summon, but 3 other cards on your field to fully utilize its effect for a potential 3300 attack beatstick. However, the anime version of Wiraqocha Rasca is a whole different bird. It only has 1 attack and defense instead of 100, it's unaffected by your opponent's spell and trap card effects, and you can skip your battle phase to set your opponent's life points to 1. So on your next turn, you can simply use the effect to attack directly to win the duel. And at number 2 is number 69 Heraldry Crest. This rank 4 Xyz monster needs any 3 level 4 monsters for its summon. The light attribute Psychotype monster has 2600 attack and 1400 defense, and comes with a pretty unique effect. Once summoned, Heraldry Crest negates the effects of all other Xyz monsters on the field. Then you can target another Xyz monster in the field, and Heraldry Crest will copy its name and original effect until the end phase. On top of that, Heraldry Crest doesn't even need to detach materials, so you're free to use the copied effect of another Xyz monster. In the anime, Heraldry Crest had a bit stronger of an effect. Rather than being just an anti-Xyz card, it's more just an anti-card in general. In the anime, this card's effect was that the effects of all other face-up monsters in the field are negated, while at the same time, Heraldry Crest would gain those effects. So Crest could have multiple effects at the same time. On top of that, not only does Crest have card effect destruction immunity, in the anime, cards that have number before them, like number 69 Heraldry Crest, can only be destroyed by other number monsters. So Heraldry Crest has some pretty amazing survivability. The last effect of this card is what it can use its materials for, is that when your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can attach a material to target and destroy 1 card your opponent controls. And our number 1 spot is the boss monster, the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX's final boss, Night Shroud. This iconic monster is none other than Darkness Neosphere. This dark level 10 fiend monster has 4000 attack and defense, and can only be special summoned by sending 1 fiend type monster you control, and 1 fiend type monster from your hand to the graveyard when your opponent's monster declares an attack. With such a niche summoning condition, what would be the big payoff for the effect? Well, alongside battle immunity, once per turn, you can return all face-up trap cards you control to the hand. So all in all, very underwhelming given it's supposed to be the final antagonist of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. However, the effect of Darkness Neosphere makes a lot more sense when you use its anime effect, and the rest of the cards in Night Shroud's stack and its gimmick. Then we can understand the anime version of Darkness Neosphere and why it was so strong. See, Night Shroud's strategy is based around a set of spells and continuous trap cards called Darkness cards. These 5 anime exclusive spells and traps all have different effects when working together and can do some serious damage. So let's dive in. The first card of the Darkness cards is Darkness itself. This is the first card in the series, and it's a field spell that destroys all cards in your spell and trap card zone and sets 5 cards. 0, Infinity, Darkness 1, Darkness 2, and Darkness 3 at random. You can't look at them, so there's no telling what cards are what. And during the end phase, you can place all activated spells and traps down once more. Just like Scrap Iron Scarecrow, but for your whole back row. Then there's Infinity and Zero that have the same effect as the two cards interact with each other and start the Darkness plays. They allow you to activate one set card in your spell and trap card zone if you do not control a face-up 0/Infinity. However, if you control a face-up matching card, either 0 or Infinity, then you can activate all set spells and traps between 0 and Infinity. Following suit are the 3 Darkness cards, Darkness 1, Darkness 2, and Darkness 3, which all have pretty easy to comprehend effects, unlike 0 and Infinity. The 3 Darkness cards all need Infinity and 0 to be active, but have strong effects. Darkness 1 allows you to destroy one card your opponent controls, then another card for each Darkness continuous trap activated after Darkness 1 is activated, so a total of 3 cards. Darkness 2 allows one monster to gain 1000 attack until the end phase, and then another 1000 for each continuous trap activated after this. Last is Darkness 3, which inflicts 1000 damage to your opponent, and then 1000 for each Darkness after, totaling to 3000 total damage. Compared to the real counterpart, the anime effect of Darkness Neosphere works a lot better with the Darkness cards, rather than just returning all the cards back to your hand. See, the anime effect of Darkness Neosphere is that during either player's turn, you can look at all spells and traps you control, ignoring the effect of Darkness. Additionally, once per turn, you can both set all face-up cards on either player's field and change the order and flip of face-up spells or traps face down to proc its effect once more. The sugar on top is Neosphere's last effect, in case your opponent gets the upper hand. If your life points are below 4000 during the end phase, it becomes 4000. So suffice to say, the anime version of Darkness Neosphere makes Night Shroud a true threat and had a significant drop-off at its TCG counterpart. But to be fair, if they did release an anime version of Darkness Neosphere around the GX era, it would cause some problems for sure.